Thanks. It was stupid. I'll have another, please. G.I.Joe, Rise of Cobra. Released in August of 2009 with a runtime of 1 hour and 58 minutes, directed by Stephen Sommers. Starring Christopher Eccleston, Joseph Gordon-Levitt, Channing Tatum, Marlon Wayans, Sienna Miller, Ray Park, Rachel Nichols, Dennis Quaid, Saeed Tagmawi, Jonathan Price, Byung-Hun Lee, Carolina Kokova, and this guy. I have no chance of pronouncing his name, so here it is. It's a big lineup, and they all get something to do, surprisingly. Production budget of 175 million, a domestic take of 150 million, a foreign take of 152 million, giving a worldwide total of 302 million, giving them a nice little profit of $127 million. Characters, and there's a lot of them in this movie. Like, seriously, the line between lead and support character gets a little blurry in this because they have all got a lot to do on screen. The good guys, the bad guys, and all everyone in the background. There's just a lot happening. But let's see how we go, and I'll try to move through them quickly. Duke, the new recruit, tough guy, all-American, all-star soldier boy. He's technically your main lead, but he shares a spotlight with everybody else. Ripcord, the other lead male, you'd call him the sidekick if it wasn't the fact that he had so much front time. He's your other ground-pounding special forces guy who's got dreams of being an Air Force pilot. He's flight qualified, he's all sorts of qualified, which comes back later in the movie, conveniently. Scarlet, she's your elite special forces butt kicker. She runs around with looks like a crossbow, a laser homing crossbow. It's a very cool toy, completely ridiculous, but that doesn't stop it from being very cool. She tries to avoid emotion and the entanglements thereof, and she does her very best to be the elite super trooper. Ends up being the foil and love interest for Ripcord. Breaker, the tech genius, the surveillance guy, Mr. Computers, Mr. Wizard. And he's very, very good in that role. He's an excellent support character who gets a heck of a lot of lines, a fair bit of front time with the camera, and is crucial to 3-4 scenes. So again, support character, yeah, not so much really. Heavy Duty. He's your big, tough team leader. In fact, he is team leader, even ahead of Duke, which is kind of cool, to be honest. He's your taskmaster, he's your overseer, he's the veteran of the group. Well portrayed, no complaints. Snake Eyes, the mute super ninja, brilliant close combatant, excellent field operative, clearly a step above everybody else in the team. Visually striking design, but doesn't get any lines at all. General Hawk, the guy in charge of the Joes, and you know, he's a general. He's generally pretty good at that too. Nothing deep or startling about this character, just a very solid performance, and not much more than the command role. Cover Girl, she's not in it much, she ends up being a tragic casualty, but she's kind of cool for when she's there, and I was very sad to see her go. Now for the bad guys, we'll start with Destro. He's your main villain for this movie. He's a conniving, cunning, underhanded arms dealer, out to cause global disaster and profit from it. He's got an extra sneaky plan for world domination, and it's not the worst I've ever seen. Spends most of the movie being a dramatically evil businessman, and it works. The Doctor, Rex, the evil genius, the mastermind of all the technology and all this stuff behind the scenes. Really nasty character, over-the-top presentation, ultimate deviled ham sandwich, this guy. And it was fun to watch him do it. The Baroness, your other lead villain, she is all over the place. She's deep into the plot. She's your antagonist. She's your somewhat sympathetic villain towards the end, and then she gets a bit of an interesting character twist as well. The once-was lover of Duke. I think they're even married or engaged or something like that. At least engaged. There to provide the emotional conflict for the main hero. Storm Shadow. Snake Eyes' opposite number. In fact, Snake Eyes' well, brother, so to speak. All sorts of dangerous and lethal, a little bit of a psychopath. They try to give him a bit of depth of character. Sort of works, sort of doesn't, but that's not what he's there for. He's the bad ninja, and he does the bad ninja stuff quite well. Then we have Zartan, who I completely forgot to introduce back at the start. Either way, he's the master of the skies. He's kind of in the background, but then he turns into a major plot point. In fact, he's the plot point that leads into the movie's sequel. So he ends up being very important and very cool. And then we have the President of the United States because, well, at the end of it all, he ends up being just as important to the plot. Surprisingly, actually. That's a lot of characters. And they all get a lot of screen time, really. I mean, they pack them into this movie. Nearly everyone gets a whole bunch of lines. They even managed to jam a cameo from Brendan Fraser in here. So, it's a busy movie full of busy people. Thankfully, it somehow kind of manages to work. So as for the score, look, I'll be giving characters a 3. Might have been a little bit higher if they managed to focus on some of the characters more. It also should have been a lot less because they just had so many in it. You really got no time to actually meet them properly. And yet at the same time, you did feel connected to most of them throughout the movie. So that's why it sits at a 3. A confused 3, but a 3 nonetheless. Story. Well, this is very busy. Technically, it's a very simple concept. Bad guys have a thing, good guys want to stop the bad guys from using the thing, bad guys use the thing to prove a point, good guys track down their base and blow it up. Yay, day is saved before the bad guys' thing can wreck the world. Like I said, fairly simple concept, we've seen it 1,000 times. However, they've taken that simple concept and jammed it full of characters, plot twists, different locations, different problems, a whole bunch of crazy chases, and some truly ridiculous action. Not to mention the flashbacks. Some very serious flashbacks in here. In fact, to the point where you get 3 distinct stories. You've got the modern, current story that's going on. You've then got the story between Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes with all their flashbacks. They put a lot of work into that story. It's not just a simple flashback. It's an actual sub-story in the movie. And if that wasn't enough, you've then got the story with Baroness, Rex, and Duke, and their convoluted history together. And that's running through this as well. You've got 3 very definite stories all culminating at the end. So much more complex and in-depth than this movie really deserves. The main story is about Destro. Destro's got these weapons, these super weapons, and he's sold them on to either NATO or the United Nations or someone like that, and they get transported. Then they get attacked and someone tries to steal them. The Joes get involved, rescue the Keisha weaponry, take it back to their base, try to figure out what's going on, who's chasing them, and then try to get them to where Destro can look after them. Of course, it turns out that Destro has double-crossed them and is actually the one chasing the weapons himself. He sold them so he could steal them and make it look like the United Nations stuffed up, and so he gets to win twice, so he makes a lot more money, and then he can go on and attack the world and all this sort of stuff. Honestly, his beginning plan is kind of murky. It's a little hard to track what his end game with the weapons were, aside from setting them off around the world and causing the second layer of his plan, which is once the world has been ravaged by these incredible weapons, the world will turn to the United States for leadership because they don't have any leadership left, or something like that. It's, like I said, murky. They have a cunning plan regarding that. They're going to have their own inside man infiltrate in and replace the president. And so they'll have a puppet president running the world. The most powerful man in the world will belong to Cobra, or what will become Cobra. It's a far-fetched plan and it's kind of ridiculous. It unfolds in front of you in a very entertaining way, and honestly, by the end of it, you're buying into this because the whole movie is over the top and ridiculous. Like, nuts. But the real trick was blending in the other 2 sub-stories. That is actually what made this very simple story not so simple, and actually quite engaging, because every time you're getting bored with the main plot, they drop in some more backstory. You find out a little bit more, then you find out a little bit more, then you find out the final pieces, and it's all quite, well, intriguing. Much more intriguing, much more engrossing than this sort of movie should ever have. Make no mistake, this is dumb as a bag of hammers. This is not a smart movie. But at the same time, you get kind of caught up in it. The ridiculous nature of it all, and these extra levels of story and complexity just grab you and take you along. It's more like a hijacking than anything else. I'm going to end up giving the story, much to my surprise, a 3. Because despite all of its shortcomings, and there are plenty of those, it still keeps you on board. And I don't know why. I almost have this urge to apologize for enjoying this story. But I did. Look and feel. Well, quite simply, this is a very, very accurate and faithful portrayal of the madness of the cartoon TV series brought to a live action movie. Gratuitous use of military hardware? Check. Incredible super science? Check. Just super incredible technology everywhere you turn around? Check, check. I mean, it starts kind of like a normal action flick, but it just steps up during this ambush sequence and then never stops. It hits this crazy level and stays there. By the time they get to France, where they're pulling off some amazingly over-the-top particle accelerator, super science, whiz-bang, special effects, spectacular sort of stuff, you just, sure, why not? Let's go. We're in. You've given up. You've surrendered. You don't care anymore. You're just here for the ride. And the ride is at breakneck speed. Speaking of breaking your neck, the CGI in this jumps from really good to really poor, hard enough to give you whiplash. I mean, sometimes in the same scene, once or twice in the same shot. Seamless integration to brain-jarringly poor work. I also don't think I've seen holograms used this extensively outside of Star Trek. They take you on a bit of a world tour. We got France, we got Egypt, we got America, we got one of the two really cold spots on the planet. And within these, we've got the White House, we've got some amazing science lab, we got the Eiffel Tower, we've got a major underwater base. I mean, that's really kind of cool. The design on that underwater base was straight out of Star Wars. In fact, a lot of this movie felt like it was straight out of Star Wars. The Joe's base in Egypt, the pit, also very cool, also very silly, but then very cool, then back to silly. Like, ridiculous silly, but so was the rest of the movie. Whatever now. There's the occasional use of some sight gags in the movie. Not too heavy-handed, but just occasionally very cool little things. My favourite one is where they've just come out of this car wreck and you got Storm Shadow looking around very seriously. And in the background, a very delayed burning tyre goes bouncing past. And speaking of the ninjas, nice little twisted things. You got the bad ninja always in white and the good ninja pretty much generally always in black. Bit of a swap over. Music is okay. It's never detrimental, never jumps out of you. In fact, you really don't notice it at all, which is doing its job, I suppose. Better than being noticeably terrible. So look and feel, I'll be giving it a 2.75. The score would have probably been a lot lower, except that the movie lent into its super almost sci-fi, almost fantasy level of science and stuck with it. They really went hard on this. They didn't let up. Once they committed 200%. So 2.75. Could have been a 3. It really could have been a 3, but just some of it is really hard to watch. It's laughably bad. Script and dialogue. Okay, this is beautifully daft. It's hammy, it's over the top, it's completely ridiculous, it's a perfect cartoon script. But honestly, it's some extremely silly stuff, delivered with some incredible seriousness and polish and real acting effort put into this. It's unusual. It's the style of an action movie with the sensibility of a daytime soap. There's the occasional good lines, like every now and then one of the jokes will work. But you can see where the writers have done their absolute best to hammer as much development, as much depth, as much personality in their characters, as hard and as fast as they could within the first act. And the end result is a group of distinguishable characters. They don't blend together. They actually stand out as separate on-screen entities. I counted 8 separate flashbacks in this movie, and the ones with Rex and the Baroness and Duke, they're okay. They flesh out the motivations of the good guys and the bad guys. That's alright. But it's the flashbacks with Snake Eyes and Storm Shadow. That's some gold. The young actors that got to play the kid versions of these characters, they're good. Their fight scenes, these little kids go nuts at each other. Those are some serious punch-ups. The Baroness and Scarlet, they're another pair that go for it. They smash into each other. They're getting nasty with knives and chains. They're hitting each other with boxes. They're smacking each other off the top of things, bouncing down other stuff. Quite often in movies when the two ladies have a fight, it's all very stylistic and acrobatic and almost a dance. Not this one. This is a drag down punch up. We got blood and bruising all over the shop. This ain't no girly fight. This is a straight up regular beatdown. The last few action scenes I'll talk about, one is in France. That is crazy. That is some, madness going on there. I haven't seen that many cars destroyed in a movie since Blues Brothers. The sheer scale of destruction that goes on in France. Cars, buildings, windows, walls. They go through it, over it, into it. It's just stuff getting wrecked everywhere. I think this is the bit where my brain just stopped caring about any reality. It's just like, whatever, here, we have to have fun now. The other major action set piece is in the frozen north or south, where they're fighting the big underwater base, and we've got submarines and ion cannons and little baby submarines dogfighting like they're spaceships. There's the assault on the base itself, where you got Snake Eyes and Scarlet and Breaker all running around on the inside, Duke doing his thing, Ripcord in a fighter jet chasing down missiles. It's quite full on. And then it turns into Star Wars underwater. It really does. Including what might as well be a Jedi versus Sith fight when it comes to Storm Shadow and Snake Eyes. They go nuts in this arc reactor or something. Ion reactor thing with an arc lightning bouncing around the place on very Star Warsy looking platforms. On the whole, script and dialogue isn't that bad, apart from one scene. There's one scene where the Joes are standing around in a corridor and they connect the dots on who's the main bad guy, Destro, and how they figure it out. How they figure it out is lame, lazy, weakest writing I've seen in any movie for a very long time. It managed to pull you right out of the movie and you just sat there going, what? Really? Really? There are so many better ways they could have done that other than a blind logic leap. So on the whole, I'll be giving script and dialogue a 2.75. When it works well, it works really well and everything is just good fun. When it doesn't work, it screams at you. And when it really doesn't work, it derails things. Fun factor. This was silly. This was ridiculous. This was often and frequently lame. It was also a lot of fun. I mean, despite myself, despite all my misgivings and everything I pulled apart in this movie and everything I noticed that was bad, I had a good time. I think this is the definition of good dumb fun. Much to my surprise, fun factor, 3.25. Final score. Well, we add all these up and we get a 14.75. Seriously, look at that fun factor score. Throwing me out. Yeah? 14.75. It was a good time, but it just had some big holes in it. Like, really big holes. Don't know what else to say about this one. I honestly think this is probably just circumstantial to me. I expect many other people to dislike this movie much more. I got a feeling that this movie just hit all the right notes for my quirky sense of entertainment and adventure. So would I recommend it? Well, yes. With a proviso that you understand what you're going in for. So there you go, that's my somewhat conflicted review of G.I.Joe Rise of Cobra. Have you seen this movie? What did you think of it? Were you as entertained by the big explosions and flashy science lights as I was? Or did you see through that and just go, yeah, this is a mess? As usual, please like, subscribe, and share my review around. And as always, I hope that you're having a great week and you're going to find some time to watch a movie.